As a Korean dad living in Sydney, man, I receive a lot of questions about racism in Australia. Yo, what's good, family, my nephews and nieces? It's your boy Uncle Paul, aka Unbelievable. Racism in Australia is a serious topic, man. So these are my serious answers when it comes to racism in Australia. Serious answer number 1. I don't know about you, man, but everywhere I go in Sydney, there are more Asians than any other race. So I feel like there's more non-Australians living in Australia than Australians. And that might be because I go to all the Asian places, but I roll through to my hood, man. My hood in Eastwood, Chatswood, Strathfield, all of those places. And even when I go into the city, there's just Asians everywhere, man. And do I like that? Absolutely. I love Asians, man. And I love Koreans the most out of all Asians, but that's how I feel about racism in Australia. And it's not just Asians either, right? The people who consider themselves Australians are not even Australians. First example of that is me, right? Not many people look at me and think, wow, there's an Australian walking past. But I know so many Australians that weren't even born here, people from Scotland, obviously Asian countries like Korea, Kiwis from New Zealand. All these people claim to be Australians, man, but in my eyes, they're not even Australians, including me. So that's how I feel about racism in Australia. Point number 2. I see a lot of intercultural couples in Australia. You see, I grew up in New Zealand, and New Zealand is considered to be one of the most friendliest countries, a country with no racism, no nothing really, just lots of sheep. And even comparing Australia to New Zealand, there are more intercultural couples in Australia versus New Zealand. So that's the second point on how I feel about racism in Australia. So the first point is that there are more non-Australians in Australia than Australians. Second point is that there are more intercultural couples in Australia than New Zealand. And the third point, I can't remember the third point.